Okay, here is the walk-around version of the video. This is the 2000 model International 3800 Bluebird school bus, 12 window. Has the T444E 7.3 turbo diesel, the same basic platform as the Ford Power Strokes of the 90s to early 2000s. A very solid V8. Tons of them have been produced and used quite effectively over the years. Some people swear by them, getting 3, 4, 5, 600,000 miles out of them without any real issues. Biggest issue you'll have is in the top end. The injectors eventually wear out, and the valve cover wiring harness that services the injectors and the glow plugs. Those, over time, the prongs will melt. That's the only trouble I've ever had with the 7.3. Bottom ends are very strong. This bus is rated at 210 horsepower. Some of the Ford pickups were up-fueled and up-tuned to well over 300 horsepower. So the school bus application at 210, I think they down fuel, maybe the injector pulse. The camshaft timing is a little more low end oriented. Does have more torque, I think, than the pickup truck Power Strokes. At any rate, school buses are not designed to win any drag races. As you can see, the sheet metal is extremely straight. Hardly a ding on this bus. Does have a couple of kind of scrapes up there high where I think it probably got some tree branches. Underneath, all very clean. Nothing but superficial rust. Very straight. Tires are in outstanding condition, as in, I can't believe the school district did not dismount those tires and put on some crappy ones. Differential oil was very clean. The drain magnet had very few filings on it. Does not make any noise from the pinion, does not leak from pinion or from the axle seals. You can see the armored diesel tank. Exhaust system is in good shape. No broken windows. For 22 years old, not saying amazing or incredible, but it's pretty darn good. Cooper Roadmaster RM234. Last time I checked, Walmart had them for $504 plus tax. I assume mounting is probably extra, as is balancing, as is the tire fee, and all the other stupid charges they get you for. Brakes are in excellent condition. Lots of pads on all four corners. It is wet underneath. The power steering tends to leak on these things. Drip. There are no dripping leaks from the rear main or front, but it is a 7.3 and they are fairly notorious for a little bit of leakage. Shocks are not too old, but they're hardly new. Brand new sticker, good until, what is that? I don't know if it's the last day of November or first, I think it's the last day of November. Transmission does have a remanufactured tag from RTS Allison in North Houston. So chances are the transmission probably has maybe, it could be 20 or 30,000 miles. Typically these Allison 545s last about 150,000 miles or so, give or take, in a big bus like this. Tires, I think most of these were 17 or 18 30-seconds. I think the fronts are 21 30-seconds. No rust. Has a newer brake chamber there. Wheels are very good condition. Axles do not run hot. The pinion is not hot. The U-joints are not hot. The front wheel bearings do not run hot. Does have the little bit of ding in the corners. That's hard to defend 22 years. I do use this as my work truck. Still has the bubble gum from the kids. I got a lot of it out, but I gave up on it. Front two seats are in there. Ceiling is in great shape. No surprises underneath. Excellent condition. Bumper is excellent. You can sight down it perfectly straight. Great bus to camp in. Big enough you could actually kind of live in it, especially if you've got multiple people. If you've got more than 3 or 4 people, a short bus can be kind of tiresome. Tires are very good. No other word for it. Has excellent mirrors. They're not that hard to drive. Once you get accustomed to it, get your mirrors adjusted. Don't block all your windows. Does have a Bendix air pump, which says Reman, although it's hardly new looking. Does have the classic Garrett turbocharger. One thing about a dog nose bus, it's a little less efficient with the space, but oh my God, you can work on these things. Try to replace that turbocharger in an Econoline. You better be able to do it yourself, because the repair shops will bend you over. This particular hose tends to get a seep over time on all these 3800s, because it's kind of in the splash zone, and it will seep for years, causing wetness, but no real serious leak. Power steering fluid, I don't know if you can see it, but it doesn't really get contaminated. Let me see if there's any. I'm on a little bit of a slope here. Let's see if we can. Oh yeah. Where are we? Very clean transmission fluid. Does have a new, you see that red, can you see it down there? That is the hardest filter in the world to change. That's the coolant filter. It has some chemical chunks in it that are time released to prevent corrosion. Does have a new Motorcraft filter. I don't know if you can see, where is that dang transmission filters up there somewhere. It does have a external spin-on transmission filter. One thing about these engines, they don't have the hideously expensive filters. You can get that Motorcraft oil filter for about 10 or 11 bucks sometimes at AutoZone. Transmission filter is only about 9 or 10. Oh shoot, I need a clear hose. Well, we'll go ahead. Maybe you can see in there. Maybe not. Is missing the windshield washer reservoir. Those always get either broken or taken off retired buses. Oil is, uh-oh, this one you gotta flip it upside down. Oil is pretty clean, no contamination. Don't detect any fuel contamination. It's not making any oil. When you hear the term making oil, that means usually the injectors are passing fuel into the engine oil system, which is a common problem with some of the newer diesels and usually results in enough oil dilution that it will grenade your engine. I think it's fairly common in the VT365 and maybe the Max Forces. I know some of those have had it. The 7.3 was phased out to meet more stringent emissions. They came out with the 6.0, which, not a bad engine in theory, but the execution of the EGR system was kind of a disaster. You can bulletproof the more modern, newer diesels. Only problem is when you start taking off emission controls, you put yourself in a little bit of liability in that if you ever get inspected, you might be paying a fine, you might be getting your bus impounded, and if you sell it to somebody and it blows up on them, who knows, they might have some recourse that you disabled the emission controls. Anyway, it goes down the road exceptionally smooth, straight. Like I said in the rolling video, don't try to be a hero if you're gonna do a Schooly. If you're not really handy, you can drive yourself insane just removing roof panels alone. These buses are built incredibly strong, and I'm sure there's a lot of Schoolies that get abandoned halfway because the people get burned out after just trying to remove the roof panels or try to do something heroic with the floor. Roof panels are the worst, I think, as far as project abandonment. Of course, you really don't want to invest a lot of money, have a real gem of a Schooly built on a crappy platform like a Max Force or some of the suspect powertrain offerings. Your resale value may or may not be there. I've known some people put up $50,000 into a 2012 nice bus, but with a Max Force, and just hard to get your money out. My advice, the Schooly that I camp in, I got a bunch of cabinets, countertops, furniture from one of the local municipalities for $12. It was a bus full of cabinets and stuff, and I was able to do 3 buses for $12. Well, let's see. One thing about these, they do have an inner and an outer filter for the air cleaner. Again, the Garrett turbocharger. This thing here is the fuel filter bowl. Alternator's looking a little long in the tooth, but kind of a crappy place for it because it always gets coolant spilled on it, and when people aren't careful. All the mirrors in good shape. Lights are blacked out. Anyway, a really good bus to start with. Something that won't leave you stranded in the middle of the interstate or in the middle of traffic looking at an emergency tow of a couple $1,000s. Does have a fiberglass repair there. Cannot see it from the outside. Just keep in mind, all these buses are pretty much the same for the last 30 years. Same axles, Meritor or Eaton. Everything is almost the same. Only thing that's changed really in the last 15 years has been the emission controls, but the same basic structure is shared by almost all buses. It does have 2 really nice strong batteries, and I redid the tie-down clamps. Tires are probably worth close to $2,500 alone, so there's not a hell of a lot of risk in this bus. All right, see, that's 20 minutes, holy moly. Anyway, you got a pretty good idea. This is a bus you can indeed work with, and just imagine you can sit on the tire and you can change your turbo and you can work on your injectors. That's really the biggest thing that goes wrong with these injectors. All right, signing off. This is the 2000 model with 174,000 miles. Let me get one kind of distant shot to sign off with. Can't go wrong.